Hi, welcome to Dale McCluskey's Dog Training. My name is Dale McCluskey. I'd like to talk to you here briefly for a few minutes within the context of, again, it's the big issue that I've discussed on my website, context of dominance and power and how that all kind of links into unwanted behavior issues that owners are experiencing and want to basically get rid of and enjoy a mutually happy and rewarding relationship with their dog. The whole context of getting to that path really revolves around this whole issue of dominance and resolving that core issue. Now, I talk a little bit, I've wrote many articles in regards to these, I call it, referring to as a belief system, because when you talk about anything in the type of path or how people think, something actually becomes a belief system once there's emotions and feelings involved, and it really kind of influences how you think in that way, which removes the ability to be objective and look at the context of dominance and power and how that is a very real issue. Trainers and highly educated people often, they kind of circle the wagon, so to speak. As soon as this issue is brought up, they get highly offended by it, because it is difficult and hard. For me, the easy path isn't always the right path, especially in this way, in this context, because to understand the context of dominance and power, and in order to resolve it, we have to change how we think. And the saying that when you change how you think, it changes everything, it truly, that's real, because what it does is it aligns your psychological path. So it brings in authority into the relationship in a way that's going to actually create a challenge state. That's what happens when you're resolving this power issue. You'll see dogs, when you expose power, they are not going to like it. So I joke with dog owners often. I say, if you're doing it right, your dog should hate your guts for probably 2 or 3 weeks. But it's not about the context of human not liking or hating. It's about nature. It's different that way. So again, how we think. We want to always, it's like human nature to go towards pleasure and avoid pain. So this, is seen by dog owners as painful because it's confrontational. Now my system, and I'll get into this here in a second, it's not meant to be to keep the levels of that confrontation down. Authority is needed. It's required to resolve this issue and to shift power over to the dog owner. But to resolve that, you have to be interacting in a way that brings a level of authority into the relationship through nature, so that you can resolve this. I call it a paradox. And what it is dogs, once they have power, they don't want to give it up. They're going to go into a challenge state. They're not going to like it. And regardless of how with dog owners and being at a certain personality type, you can break down, talk about personality types, and I'll even break it apart for dog owners and show you why authoritative type training is going to be more successful than emotion love-based training based on the psychological aspect of that alignment, what's happening deeper than what you see from the surface. So when you really break everything to pieces and go deeper into this, it starts to become very clear that there's a huge problem. And the problem is how we as a society, especially with this type of self-focus, as soon as we get a dog, it's immediately, and it's human nature to do this, is how can a dog fulfill my life? How can a dog make my life more meaningful? Well, the problem with that is emotion-based, and that will immediately bring us into conflict with nature. Even dogs that are very young, puppies, it begins right there, believe it or not, because that's part of what makes a dog a dog. It's through nature. I've experienced, or I've seen many times where a dog has been injured because of the way people, or the owners, have thought about the injury. Even though the injury has healed, they've shifted power to the dog, and the dog has now become aggressive, and they can't figure it out. They just can't. So, and it always kind of circles right back, it always does, to this whole context of dominance and power. It's a very difficult subject. It's very confusing. It took me many years. I've trained over 800 dogs, and this issue with me, I didn't resolve it, or I didn't figure it out from the easy surface situations where treats and food and conditioning. I mean and I talk about that too, that aspect of it. That when change does happen, and it can happen, it does happen through, the psychological will align through conditioning-based methods. But I even break it apart and show you how, is that, when that's not working, that's, training really at a level, once you understand the psychological aspect, it's what I call a intervention more than training, because you're changing the psychological path of the owner. So even in the context of conditioning-based methods, it's not to suggest that they don't work. It's to suggest that it's more by natural alignment than design. And that when things start even going wrong in conditioning, and it happens often, is that what you see from the service dogs will move around for things, for something, and still hold on to power. And that's because that owner is remaining within a highly emotional state. And so when those conditioning methods don't work, and the owner goes home and comes back to the trainer and says, listen, I still have all these unwanted behaviors, they're not going away. Then the frustration level, even the word they use within conditioning, adversive, negative. Well, what's that? That links, everything always links into the psychological, which means that there's a psychological shift occurring. Even in those conditioning methods, you can see it. If you really step back and look at what's happening, you can see what is the driving force behind meaningful change. It's the psychological, period. It's the psychological. So, and I brought an example here just to kind of see, so you can see the context here. This is just a leash, and this is all I use during training. A leash, a normal type leash, and a flat, straight collar. Now this collar here is actually hooked right onto the leash, and you can adjust it. But I want you to start thinking beyond just devices, and because it's true. It's what, and even you get into this whole benchmark of what a standard really means. For me, it means that success means diminishment of unwanted behavior. Which are those behaviors associated with power and dominance? So if you think about all those behavior issues that you're having problems with, jumping, taking off, aggressive towards other dogs and people, even the context, and really think about this. People often say, well, Dale, my dogs don't like men. Well, not to generalize, but what psychological path do men generally link to? They go more into an authoritative state more often. So a dog holding on to power, especially a high level of power, and they're approached by a certain personality type that's going into an authoritative type of thinking, that dog's going to react to that at a higher level. And you really think about what I'm saying, and it'll start to perhaps to make a little sense to you. Now, getting back to the leash and straight